So, welcome to this evening's webinar. Thanks for taking the time out. It's always great to have you join me. I don't know where you are in the world, and it's always kind of a bit fun thinking there are literally people all over the place tuning in to take part in the webinar today. So, a little bit of a kind of housekeeping. It's going to last about an hour. Please feel free to ask questions at any time using the little chat function. So where you just typed hi or yes or something like that, you can use that to ask any questions. I may not get to them straight away, but this sort of clever webinar system will track all of your questions, and I can always then answer them later on in an email. So also, if you've got any questions that you feel are very personal or private, you can also type them and then just put in brackets private, and I can answer them for you later. Okay, so at the end of the webinar, I have a really fantastic giveaway worth £50. So do hang around to the end because it really, really is well worth it and will really help you on your journey in using hypnobirthing if that's what you decide to do. Now, as we go through this evening or this morning, wherever you are in the world, there will be, I'm going to have some polls where I'll ask you some questions and you get to answer them, and we kind of get to see how everybody's doing. So I'm going to start off. Kelly, I can't use the chat. Is it? Yes, Kelly, that's perfect. I've got it. See, it works. So yes, it's in the sort of the questions tab. Then yes, I can see anything that you type in there. Okay, so we're going to start off with a little oh, I don't know, Kelly, you've just typed something, but I can't read what it is. It looks like two little funny boxes, but I think it's probably an emoji or something like that. Anyway, let me ask the very first one just to find out a little bit about you. I'd like to know roughly how many weeks pregnant you are. So as you can see, a little box has popped up. If you want to just click on whichever one is appropriate for you, and then I give it a few sort of 30 seconds or so, and then when everybody's voted, you can all see where everybody else is as well. So it's quite a nice way of kind of seeing how you fit in with everybody else that's watching this evening. Okay, so almost everybody has done it, not quite. So what I will do is I will then share that. Now, sometimes I forget. So if it seems like I have forgotten and I'm talking about something else and you can't see on the screen, please shout at me through the question box because that does happen occasionally. Okay, so if we now close that and share it, you should be able to now see, ta-da! So 64% of you are 12 to 32 weeks. Fantastic, good. So that's brilliant that you're starting this whole process so early. Now, that's not to say that 32 plus weeks, it's too late, not by any way at all. But with any skill that you do, the more you do it, the better you become at it. So the sooner you can start practicing some of these techniques, the better that will be. Now, I've had women who've started doing their hypnobirthing at 40 weeks. So if you are in that category, then you, as I said, it really is not too late. But I would suggest that if you are sort of 32 plus weeks onwards, that if you are going to do some sort of hypnobirthing, that you kind of start thinking about doing it sooner rather than later. Brilliant. Okay, so then hopefully if I click on that, we should get back to, ta-da, there we go, it works. Okay. So just a little bit about me. My name is Maggie Howell, and I'm the founder of an approach to hypnobirthing called Natal Hypnotherapy. I started this 16 years ago when my eldest, who you can see standing next to me there, was in my tummy, and I was, as most first-time mums, pretty nervous about the whole thing. I wasn't in any shape or form a kind of earth mothery type. I was a professional career woman. I hadn't really thought much about the birth. I wasn't really giving it any kind of much of my time until I started hearing the horror stories. And of course, then I thought, yikes, this is not what I want to be doing. So my husband, who's this handsome chap at the end here, he told me about something called NLP, which stands for neuro-linguistic programming. And he suggested, in part of his studies, he'd looked at the use of hypnosis as pain management. So he suggested I look at doing that for the birth. Now, back then, there was nothing in the UK, no sort of formalized program on hypnosis in childbirth. And so I went and did a standard hypnotherapy course and kind of came away thinking, yeah, that all seems great. It's very relaxing, but is it really going to do anything? Anyway, I decided to give it a good go. I went and wrote my own scripts. I did a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk to you about today. And I went on to have a really calm, positive birth. Now, big question, was it pain-free? This is the one I get asked so much. No, it wasn't. I would lie to you if I said that it was pain-free. My whole approach to birthing with hypnosis is not about aiming for a pain-free birth. What it is about is giving you some tools and techniques to help you stay in control, to be able to feel like your body is doing what it's meant to do and that you can work with your body. I'm going to explain a lot more about how you can do that as we go through the process. Anyway, as you can see, I've gone on to try this once or twice more. So this is my brood, my 5 lovely boys, all of whom were born using these techniques, all of whom were actually born at home, but that was a choice that we felt was right for us. I then decided to, after Joe's birth, I decided to formalize what I'd done because everybody else I seemed to talk to had had a really negative birth. And I thought, you know what? I don't know what I did, but I need to learn more so I can help others. And that was really how Natal Hypnotherapy started. Since then, well over 100,000 women have used the techniques. I personally have trained over 1,000 midwives. I spend a lot of my time doing that now because midwives are finding that women who are using these techniques tend to have much better birth experiences. And obviously they want to know how to support women who are doing some sort of hypnobirthing. So that's a little background about me and where I've come from. So first of all, why do we even need hypnobirthing? What's the point of it all? Is it some newfangled thing? Well, first of all, it isn't. Technically, the concepts of what we do in hypnobirthing have been around since time began. What we have done is really formalized it into a program so women have access to it because we no longer birth in the kind of environments where we are with other women, seeing childbirth from a very young age, supporting other women in birth before we get pregnant and so on. So what's happened really currently in our situation, now I'm talking about in the West, in the UK mainly, because that's where I work. I don't know, out of interest, let me know where you are in the world. If you want to have a little type in your little question box, you can let me know where you are. But in the UK, and I know in the US and Australia, we have moved into a very medicalized model. Wow, just having a look, we've got Eleanor in Slovakia, we've got Kelly in London, we've got Margarita, namesake, in Italy, we've got Agata in Germany, we've got Rachaya in Ireland, golly. So we've got all over the place, which is fabulous. So we've moved into this world now where birth is seen as a very medicalized thing. Now, I'm not saying that that's an issue. If we, when we need the medicalized world to support us, it is invaluable, and we are so blessed that we have that facility. However, what has happened with that is that we have become very fixated on rules, on protocols, on procedures, and they are not always necessarily in our best interests, because sometimes women are sort of slotted into boxes that you need to fit into a certain protocol that maybe isn't necessarily right for you. And the problem with that is that we have now become a world where birthing is considered to be quite scary, quite medicalized, and often as a result, we're becoming very negative about birth. So, I don't know if you agree. Let me know if you agree or not, whether, nowadays birth is it's become really quite a negative thing, and everybody talks about the horror stories and all the difficulties and the trauma and so on, which isn't great if you're a first-time mum. Yes, we've got lots of people saying, yes, they agree. So, out of interest, I'm just going to do another little poll just to find out, is this your first baby? Are you a first-time mum, or have you had a baby before? So let me know whether you are first time or have had babies before. Brilliant. Okay. Oops, where have we gone? All right, fantastic. Everybody done? Okay, let's have a little look. Okay, wow. So 77% of you are first-time mummies. So fantastic that you've thought about, doing this sort of thing now, thought about hypnobirthing with your first birth, because quite often we get women that come to hypnobirthing because they had a really difficult traumatic time before, and are, have decided that they want to make a change, they want to do something differently this time. So fantastic that you, as a first time mum, you are looking at all of the ways that you can make this the most positive experience possible. Okay. Oh, that's right. Have I just make sure I've clicked the right button? Okay, see, I nearly forgot then. Okay, we should now be back on the screen. Good. So another little poll. What do you think is the main emotion that women feel when they are preparing for birth? What do you think is the main emotion that women feel when they are approaching birth in our day and age now? What do you think? Okay. I'm just going to have a sip of water, so that's why I'm going to go quiet for a second. Okay, fantastic. Everyone done? Good. So no surprises there, really, is it? That the main one that people have talked about is fear, that almost 80% of you agree that, the first emotion that comes to mind for women is fear, which is ridiculous when you actually think about the fact that giving birth is what we as women were kind of designed to do. And I'll talk more about that later on. Lovely that lots of you think of excitement as well, which I think is fantastic. And the more you can spread the word that, this is incredible, this is amazing, this is what this is something to just cherish, because you don't get to do it that often. I know I've done it maybe more than others, but for most people it tends to be once, twice, maybe 3 times. So make the absolute most of it. Okay, so why do you think it is? Why do you think that there is so much fear? Well, I think for a lot of women, there is this huge build-up through their teenage years, through their early, moving into adulthood, where there are so many negative stories out there about birth. It might be what your mum has told you. It might be from watching One Born Every Minute, which, for those of you that aren't in the UK, it's one of these kind of, what do they call it? Drama. It's not a documentary, but it's where they film women in labour wards, and you just kind of have a fly on a wall view of it. The problem with that is that they tend to show the most entertaining, if you like, the ones that have the highest entertainment value, which tend to be, of course, the horror stories. Now, we did actually have an amazing birth it was about a year ago, and I'll put a link to that in the email that comes afterwards, of Nadine, and she used natal hypnotherapy, and she was filmed for One Born Every Minute and had the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful birth. But of course the producers didn't think that that was that exciting, so the other woman that they used had an absolutely horrific traumatic birth, because they needed to balance it for the viewers. So quite often what you're seeing is a skewed picture. There's also, like I talked about, the protocols, all the what if happens. And of course, understandably, we begin to get quite scared and quite worried when we hear about all the things that could go wrong. It might be school birth videos, obviously all the horror stories that you hear, the phrase women used to die in childbirth. Well, they did. But most of the time, the reasons they died were not because their bodies weren't capable of birthing. It was more to do with the environmental conditions, their health, the hygiene, and so on. And of course, my hospital policy is, I hear that so often, will I be allowed? Am I allowed to do such and such? So of course, there is so much of this that leads to a high level of fear. Okay. So if you've got fear in birth, all right, now, I'm going to talk through this, but we're going to move on to how you can overcome this. If you are scared, if you're feeling anxious, if you are frightened, your body is going to kick off with something called adrenaline. I'm sure you've all heard of the fight or flight scenario. But when adrenaline floods through your body, then your body gets into that fight mode. And so you have a huge amount of tension in your body. Now, if you've got tension and you're in labour, when the contraction comes, it's no wonder that it's going to be painful. And if you have a painful contraction, the chances are you're anticipating a lot more pain, a lot more fear, and you stay in this very negative loop. And you can see this when you watch One Born Every Minute. or some of those documentaries, you can see how this fear can create this loop. I've just had a comment from Lucy, who's a midwife watching this, and she said, this is what I tend to come across the most, even though she may not feel it, but she's agreeing that fear is what happens, and this loop becomes a really terrible kind of virtuous circle that it's so hard to get out of. But what could we have instead? What would be more helpful instead? This is a loop that I talk about all the time on my courses and in my books and so on, because this is where, if we can get you into the right mindset, then this is the loop that you will stay in. First of all, if you can get rid of those fears, and I'll explain how to do that, and have calm thoughts, positive thoughts about what's going to happen. If you know how to breathe effectively, and I'll talk more about that again later. If you know how to relax your body at a really deep level, the sensations are going to be so much more manageable. And if the sensations are manageable, you have that sense of trust and confidence that you can do this, and you then stay in this calm loop. Now, good question. Is this only available to women who've done hypnosis? Do you think this loop is only for women who have done hypnosis? What do you reckon? Nope, you're right. No, it's not. Of course it's not. This was how birthing was designed. Women all over the world birth in this loop. The problem is, if you have come from a place where you're feeling scared and frightened, you haven't witnessed birth before, you don't know how to relax very well, you don't feel very instinctive, it's going to be jolly hard to get into this loop. And so the techniques I'm talking about are going to help you to actually make this a reality for your birth experience. Okay, so this is actually my sister, and I was blessed to be able to be with her, and it was actually the first birth that I ever attended as a doula, and she was very skeptical, but she said using natal hypnotherapy gave me the confidence to give birth to my first baby at home. I was amazed at how relaxed and calm I felt at all times. Okay, so step 2, what are the benefits of doing some sort of hypnosis? Well, there are many, many general benefits of hypnosis, and I'll explain in a minute what hypnosis actually means. So the first one that comes up in almost every study that's ever done using hypnosis is that it reduces anxiety and stress. So already you can see that loop of the fear and the anxiety, we're going to begin to address it just by practicing the hypnosis. Secondly, there is a lot of evidence that shows that you can help to deal with pain. Now, like I said right at the beginning, I'm not going to tell you or spout forth that this is all about a pain-free experience. Some women do have that, which is marvelous, but that's not the goal. It's learning how to deal with it, how to work with your body. And hypnosis in general has been used literally for centuries as a way to anesthetize the body. So you can actually, there are people who've had operations just under the use of hypnosis. It lowers blood pressure, again, super helpful in pregnancy. It changes unwanted habits, which not so much to do with pregnancy, but that's generally, if you've come across hypnosis, it might be for stopping smoking and eating and overeating and so on. It helps with sleep, again, very helpful before and after the baby. It helps have a better functioning body. For example, there's some clinical trials on the use of hypnosis for IBS, Crohn's disease and things like that. It helps you have calmer thoughts, which again is really, really useful when it comes to childbirth. Now, there have been some clinical trials on hypnosis, not a huge number, but there have been some, and the evidence has showed that women have needed less medication. They've had less reported pain. Oh, I think that's missed one out there, sorry. They were shorter labours. Now, I stress the bit because it's not, again, about a short labour. What they generally found was that women using hypnosis tended to have labours that were maybe 1 or 1.5 hours less than those who hadn't had any hypnosis. Higher APGAR scores. Now, an APGAR score is a score given to your baby as soon as it's born, which really just tells you how well your baby's doing. So looking at its colour, its responsiveness, its breathing, and so on. So what this is saying is that women who'd used hypnosis, the babies seem to respond really positively as well. More frequent spontaneous delivery, so that means that they didn't need to have inductions or to be kind of helped along on the day. And reduced postnatal depression, which is a really big one and not something that a lot of people think about or talk about. But if you suffered from it in the past, or if your mum suffered from it, then this might be something that would really encourage you to look at using hypnosis, because it really can help deal with those first few weeks after your baby. And then there was the biggest trial done in the UK called the SHIP trial, which again showed that the use of hypnosis reduced anxiety and fear. Additional benefits that we hear that are not clinical, but they're anecdotal, and we hear this all the time. I get feedback on an almost daily basis from women who are using the techniques, is they feel more positive, they're sleeping better, they've got less physical discomfort, they're able to deal with any aches and pains during pregnancy and of course during birth and afterwards. If they're feeling calmer, they're feeling confident, then their partner is as well, which of course is super, super important. Actually, I'm just going to ask a quick poll, actually, just so I know. I just want to find out how many of you are listening with your partner, or have your partner involved. Okay, fantastic. All right, nearly there. Okay, so let's have a look. Wow, brilliant. So more than half of you, which is great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because having your partner there, so hi partner, hi guys, if you're with her listening, really brilliant that you're also taking part in this, because if you understand these concepts, you're going to be able to use them and support her during the labour. And of course, it's going to help you to stay really calm and relaxed as well, which makes such a big difference. And I'm sure our midwife who's watching will also agree that if you've got a calm partner, it can make such a big difference for everybody involved. Okay, brilliant. So another huge benefit, which most people don't even think about, is the impact on the baby. There's been a lot of research done over the years on the impact of stress in pregnancy on the baby. There's an amazing professor called Vivette Glover, if you get a chance to look up her work. And she's really spent, most of her career looking at this. And she's found again and again and again that women who are able to relax during pregnancy, able to cope with stresses and strains, the impact on their babies are huge from both an emotional and physical and psychological level, way beyond babyhood into sort of early childhood. Okay, so our midwife says, yes, I definitely agree. Brilliant. Easier breastfeeding, if that's what you're choosing to do. Again, some women, that's a real concern and a worry, and using these techniques can really, really help with that whole process as well. And of course, increased confidence, which is what it lies behind so much of the use of hypnobirthing. Increased bonding with your baby, really, really important. Again, bonding now while your baby's in utero, but also once your baby is here. Okay, so good question. What exactly is hypnosis? There's a lot of myth out there about what it is, and I'm sure you've all seen some of those dreadful TV shows where they're using stage hypnosis, or maybe in Magaluf you were drunk one night and went out and saw some stage hypnosis. Now, that isn't exactly what we're going to be talking about here. But let me give you a definition. Hypnosis is an altered state of consciousness involving focused attention when you have an increased receptiveness to positive suggestions. Now, it's a bit of a mouthful, but what it's saying is it's an altered state of consciousness, a bit like daydreaming, where you're still aware of what's going on around you, but mentally you've kind of floated away, or you've switched off. And when you do that, you then tend to become very, very focused. So you may not be focusing on what's going on around you, but in your mind, you can focus really, really well on one particular thing. And when you're in this state, you become very, very receptive to positive suggestions. And it's the positive suggestions which is the real core behind how hypnosis works. So that's a definition of the state of hypnosis. It's completely natural, very much like daydreaming. It's not the same as being asleep. There is this kind of misunderstanding again. Some people say, oh, I listen to the tracks and I keep falling asleep. What I'll always say is, well, when do you wake up? almost invariably the answer is, oh, you know, at the end when you count to 5. So what's that telling you? Is that person actually asleep, or are they in a very deep state of what we call hypnosis, where they're still listening to the suggestions? Because the fact that they wake up when the suggestion says, in a moment I will count to 5 and you will open your eyes, shows that they're actually following the suggestions all along, even if it feels like they've totally zoned out and gone to sleep. It's a completely natural state with no negative side effects. The worst thing that's going to happen is you actually fall asleep and then you wake up when you've had a good sleep. So really, there isn't anything negative about it at all. You are under your control, not anybody else's. This is probably one of those big ones that most people are worried about. Is like, oh, you know, am I going to make you act like a chicken, or am I going to make you sing like Elvis and things like that? Of course not. That's stage entertainment. And yes, there's some degree of hypnosis involved, but ultimately it is an entertainment show, just like I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. You know, they do the stupidest, craziest things, but they're not technically hypnotized. So you cannot be made to do anything that you are not congruent with and you do not feel comfortable with. And one of the clever things about the way we work is our mind is only open to positive suggestions. So if I were to make a negative suggestion in hypnosis, your conscious mind would suddenly go, oh, don't like that, don't feel comfortable, and it would kind of bring you back into the here and now. Okay. So how do you actively get into hypnosis? Before I go into that, I just want to find out, again, another quick poll is, are you actually, you know, who of you, are already doing some sort of hypnosis, or are already listening to tracks, or are thinking about it? That way it sort of helps me to be clear in my descriptions. Okay. Almost there. Brilliant. Let's have a quick look. Oh, wrong one. That one there. Okay, brilliant. Wow, wow, wow. That's fantastic. So loads of you are already doing some form of hypnosis. Let me know in the little chat thingy whether it's listening to tracks or courses. But obviously you've all got, for those of you who have already got a good understanding of this particular process. But I'm going to run through it for those of you that haven't, because obviously there are still lots that would like to know a little bit more about it. So for most hypnosis sessions, this is the kind of process that you'll go through. First of all, you again get the environment right, find somewhere quiet, safe, where you're not going to be disturbed. And you begin the whole process by focusing your attention. And this can be done through some sort of breathing techniques, maybe some fractional relaxation of relaxing all of your muscles, maybe some sort of visualization where you kind of drift off and you go and spend some time on a beach. All of those things are helping you to step away from the here and now and begin to kind of move into your subconscious mind. When you get into that state, that's when we start putting in all of the positive suggestions, because you become incredibly receptive to all of those positive suggestions. And for hypnosis, the suggestions will be around any issue or any scenario that you wish to change. Obviously, what we're talking about today is for the birth itself mainly, so giving you really positive suggestions on how to stay calm, relaxed, focused and confident throughout. And then at the end of a session, then you will come up and out, and what we say, you exit it in a very kind of calm, gentle way. So for those of you that are listening to my tracks, at the end, I will always say, in a moment, you'll hear me count from 1 to 5. And then on the count of 5, you'll open your eyes to be wide awake. So that's the process for actively getting into hypnosis. So you might be wondering, well, that's all lovely, but how does the hypnosis actually work? Well, in essence, it is teaching you how to relax and breathe at will. Now, obviously, you know how to do these things, but what we're looking to do is actually to be able to recreate that sense of deep relaxation at any given time. So one of the techniques I teach on my course is called the rapid relaxation technique, which is a 3-2-1 relax. And it's a trigger I use on my tracks, but on the course I actually teach you how to do that with your partner, so you can take yourself into deep relaxation literally in about 20 seconds. So that is an incredibly powerful and useful tool to be able to use at any time. So just say you've transferred into hospital, the contractions are hotting up, you're suddenly in a new space, in a new environment, you're feeling a little bit unsure, you're able to use this technique to just very quickly take yourself into a lovely, deeply relaxed state. It's then conditioning your body. So what you do with the different tracks and with the techniques on the course is you're giving yourself ways to actively have a cue that takes you into a deeply relaxed state. It helps you then to overcome a lot of the fears that have been created by all of the stuff that's happened in the past. Remember, we talked about, your mum's stories and the birth videos at school and One Born Every Minute. What you're doing with hypnosis is you're replacing those with a new, much, much more positive video, if you like, a new way of looking at birth. And so in essence, you're kind of going through a dress rehearsal of how you would like birth to be over and over and over again before it actually happens for real. By doing that, you are effectively reprogramming your mind and beginning to change any beliefs that you used to have about childbirth. What do I mean by reprogram? Now, it sounds kind of a bit weird, but what that means is that throughout your life, really from a very young age, you will have heard all sorts of things about birth, from family and friends, from media, TV, from the medical world, maybe from your own religion, your own culture, from your own personal experience. Maybe you saw your mum give birth, or a sister or an aunt. So all through your life, you have been programmed, if you like, to see birth in a certain way. And that creates a certain set of beliefs about birth. Now, what we know, again, from psychology and from research, is that if you have a certain set of beliefs about something, the chances are they become your reality. I've got this picture here of this lovely couple who are from South Africa. And in South Africa, they came from a very kind of well-to-do family with lots of doctors in the family. And this lady was led to believe from very, very young that giving birth vaginally was primitive and awful and traumatic and dreadful, and any self-respecting woman would automatically have a cesarean section. So of course, when she came to the UK and she got pregnant, she was horrified to find out that here that really wasn't the case, and that really it was so much better to have a natural birth. And of course she was terrified because of all of the, if you like, the programming that she had had beforehand. Anyway, she did a course with me. This is a good few years ago. That's me there on the side. And I was very honoured that they asked me to be their doula. So I was with them at the birth. And not only did they go on to have an amazing natural birth, she actually had a home birth, which was just wonderful. And yeah, it was a really, really lovely birth experience. So the reason I tell this story is that her programming really led her to believe that birth should be by cesarean, and otherwise it was going to be primitive and dreadful. But actually changing those beliefs, changing her mental program, led her to have a really positive birth experience. So how does this work? I hear you cry. Well, it's all based on cause and effect. So what do I mean? Everything in life, everything that happens in life has a cause and an effect. So you are thirsty, you go for a drink. Your phone rings, you answer it. Someone calls your name, you pick it up. You're tired, you go to sleep. Yeah, you've got it. Everything has a cause and an effect. So if a woman is in labour, and let's say she has gone into labour and not done any of the stuff I'm talking about here, with that very first contraction, that's going to happen. The chances are she responds with a sense of panic, a sense of tension, a sense of fear. So the cause is the contraction and the response is the panic, the tension and the fear. Another one might be going into hospital. That's the cause. The output of that is that she feels scared, she feels tense, maybe she's had negative experiences in hospital before, maybe she doesn't like the smells and so on. So these responses are all triggered by these things here. Maybe she meets a new midwife. Again, suddenly she feels a bit unsure. This midwife's unfamiliar. Maybe she doesn't feel so connected with her. So all of these things happen as part of cause and effect. Okay, so how can hypnosis change the cause and effect? This is where the real magic of hypnosis comes in. Of course, the relaxation is great, the breathing is great, the visualization is great, but the real magic is when you can begin to change how you respond to the cause. Okay, so imagine if you could pre-program yourself to stay calm, relaxed, and focused in all situations. Just think about that for a second. How amazing would that be if every time you were faced with a situation that you found that you had in the past found difficult or uncomfortable or stressful, that you could actually have pre-programmed yourself in advance to stay calm? Well, the way we do that is by these wonderful things called post-hypnotic suggestions. This is the only kind of hypnosis technique I'm going to talk about because I think it's really, really, really useful to understand this, and it makes everything else really fit into place. So what we do is when we're in hypnosis, we give our subconscious, our subby, because I was taught by an Australian, a new response to a cause. So, for example, instead of having that cause leading to a negative effect, which may be the anxiety, the fear, the tension, we come up with how we want to respond instead. So let's think of the examples again. Maybe as the day gets closer, you give yourself a suggestion that you feel calm, you feel relaxed. With the very first contraction, I feel excited. I'm looking forward to meeting my baby. When I meet a new midwife, it reminds me of the confidence I have in myself. So can you see what we're doing there? These things here, we can't change. We can't change the fact that the day is going to get closer, that you're going to have a new contraction, a contraction, you're going to meet a new midwife. But what we can change way before it actually happens is how we respond. Does that make sense? Give me a little sort of how you think, what do you think about that? Because that really, to me, I think is absolutely magical, and it's the real kind of core behind how all hypnosis works. Okay, fab. So it's, if you like, it's like the ultimate brain training. And the more you hear these suggestions, the more your subconscious accepts them as reality. Okay, get to that, listen to that one again. The more you hear these suggestions, the more you accept them as your reality. So it kind of replaces all those negative videos and negative horror stories that you might have heard before. And because the mind doesn't know the difference between something that is real and something that is imagined, if you imagine something enough times, it becomes real to you. So if you've listened to hypnosis over and over again, and there's all these positive suggestions, all of these brilliant ways of dealing with everything that happens, when you go into labor for real, the body goes, yeah, we've done this. Yeah, no, I know what I'm doing. And it just then follows those suggestions. One of the things I hear more than anything is a lot of people saying, do you know what, I didn't really think it was going to work. You know, I'm sure it works for all those earth mothery types, or I'm sure it works for other women, but I didn't think it was really going to work for me. But when I went into labor, something kicks in. I hear that phrase so often. They literally say it's like something just kicked in. It was like I just zoned out and I went to that space. So what you're ultimately doing is changing any old negative views of childbirth to one which is much, much more helpful. And while you're doing all of that, obviously you're conditioning your body to respond in a really positive way. Okay, as Hannah said here, I was very skeptical, but in the end I could not believe how much the hypnotherapy just kicked in. Oh, where did that go? I've lost it now, sorry. Everything happened just as you said on the CD. There you go, that's exactly what I was talking about. It's like something just kicks in. Okay, so what effect then does hypnosis have on the birth? Well, remember this cycle that we talked about, the fear, adrenaline, tension, and so on. Well, what we're effectively doing is we are breaking that cycle. Now, the beauty with the techniques that I'm going to teach you is that you can break that cycle at any point. So it doesn't have to be just the fear. It might be that you've just suddenly had a really intense contraction, maybe because your waters have just broken, you've been really calm, everything's been fine up until that point, but suddenly it's like, whoa, where did that come from? You can still use these techniques to sort of jump in at this point and break the cycle. Okay, so it's really something that you can do at any point. Now, this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's something I really want you to listen to and take away with you. It's actually not my quote, I have to say. I got it from a film with Will Smith, all about the earth dying or something. But anyway, that's irrelevant. The quote is amazing. And what he said was, fear is not real. It is just a thought about something which may or may not happen in the future. And the rest of the quote goes on to say, and most of the time it never happens. So just think about that again. Fear is not real. It is just a thought about something which may or may not happen in the future. When you grasp that, it really helps you to begin to put some of your fears in their place and say, do you know what? It is just a thought. And it's not guaranteed. It's not going to necessarily happen. It's just a thought about something that may happen. Now, danger is very real. If you're faced with danger, of course, that's a very real scenario that you have to deal with straight away. But fear is not. Just mull on that one. Okay. Now, one of the things, again, that I really want to stress is that excessive pain in childbirth, the kind of stuff you see on the TV programs and that you hear about, is actually the result of tension in the muscles, reduction of oxygen to the uterus, and fewer of the birthing hormones. Okay, so the excessive pain is not inherent. It's not something that we were all born to have. The excessive pain comes from the tension, the reduction of oxygen, and the fewer cocktail hormones, the cocktail of birthing hormones. So if you can find ways to stay calm, to stay relaxed, to breathe well, you are simply not going to experience that excessive pain that you hear other people. Okay. So step number 7, how can we break that cycle? Well, we break it by, first of all, changing that video we talked about. So stopping all of those fears and worries from kind of getting embedded. By changing that video to one which is more positive, one which is more helpful, one which is more beneficial, then you begin to replace that anxiety with confidence. So just think how brilliant that would be now to have any kind of anxiety or fears that you've got to be reduced, and instead for you to feel really confident. I had an email from somebody just today who's halfway through my online course, and she said, I can't believe how differently I feel. I can't believe how confident I already am when I was petrified of birth when I started. So it's just helping to switch off some of those negative emotions and switch on the positive ones. And of course, you're reprogramming your responses. So you're giving yourself all of these amazing ways of dealing with everything and anything that might happen in labour. And of course, you're learning to work with your body. One thing I hear so often from my midwife colleagues is that it's like women are fighting their own bodies. It's like when they go into labour, they just tense up and almost like trying to get away from the contractions rather than just succumbing and just working with the contractions. Now, the absolute easiest way of breaking that cycle at any given time and in anything in life actually is just to breathe. I know that sounds nuts, but it really, really is important. A wonderful colleague of mine gave me this quote, and she said, when in doubt, breathe it out. And I do that all the time. Now, I've got 5 kids and I run a business. I'm starting a new business and I've got all sorts of things going on in my life. And of course, there are times when I kind of go, ah, and I always say to myself, just breathe, just breathe. So breathing is your number 1 powerful tool. It relaxes your muscles, it increases the level of oxygen to your muscles, it increases those amazing birthing hormones. Now, I'm not going to talk about that on this webinar. I go into it in quite a lot of detail on my online course, because I think if you understand how hormones work, the kind of conditions they really love and the kind of things that they don't like, it really helps, especially birth partners. They find that so, so useful to understand how to really maximize those birthing hormones. And of course, it helps get rid of the toxins, the lactic acid, so all of that tension just disappears. So breathing is number 1. Now, do you need complicated breathing techniques? In my humble opinion, nope. I don't think you do. There are some methods that teach different breathing techniques, breathing in for a count, holding it, breathing out. But to me, that makes the whole process very conscious. And what I'm aiming for you is to help you to stay as conscious free, if you like, just to go with your primal body in labor, to go into what midwives call labor land, where you're just away with the fairies and not thinking, not doing, you're just being and working with your body. So the most important thing during the birth is to focus on your breathing. Now, you may have a cold on the day, and so if you've been taught to breathe in a certain way and you've got a blocked nose, you're going to get all stressed with it. The most important thing is that you just breathe in a way that's right for you, but you breathe steadily, rhythmically, and deeply. That's a really important one to remember. Steadily, rhythmically, and deeply. Breathe down to your abdomen. The more you can kind of have abdominal breathing, the more oxygen you're going to get. Lots of women naturally focus on the out breath. If you think about if you've had a stressful day and you get home and you finally sit down, the first thing most people do is they take a big breath and they make that long out breath. That's a really good way of just releasing tension. So yes, by all means, focus on your out breath, but you don't need anything else in terms of technical patterns. And just follow your instincts. Those are the key things. Now, on my course, I do go through some practical exercises that you and your partner can do here. This was a lovely couple that I took through these particular exercises, and it teaches you some really brilliant ways, especially the guys, to help mum to go into a deeply relaxed state really quickly without using any words at all. One of the things I find with women using hypnosis is quite often during labour, in the serious part of labour, they don't want to talk. They don't want to kind of have noise going on around them. And so the more a partner or a dad is able to use your breathing and to use touch to help mum stay in that calm, relaxed space, the better. Okay, so along with your breathing is they go, they're hand in hand always is the relaxation. Now, relaxing sounds very easy, but really to relax well, to relax quickly and to relax at will takes practice. Now, before you got pregnant, maybe your way of relaxing was a glass of wine or, going out with friends. Obviously, during pregnancy, you need to learn much deeper ways of relaxing. And with the hypnosis, you will condition yourself to be able to relax all those muscles at will. Okay, and as I mentioned, one of the techniques that I teach on the course is the 3-2-1 relax, which again is a really brilliant rapid relaxation technique. And in fact, I teach it to midwives when I do study days, and they actually, I've heard them afterwards saying they go into the toilet and sit on the loo and they can take themselves into a deeply relaxed state. It takes about 30 seconds and they can actually come out of that feeling relaxed, re-energized and refreshed. So it's a technique that you can do anywhere, anytime. So guys, if you've got a busy day, if you've got meetings and you're a bit stressed, you can kind of just go sit somewhere quietly and do this technique yourself as well. Okay, so this was another lovely couple that I worked with a long time ago, and she'd had a really, really, really difficult birth first time round, and she was absolutely terrified. But she found that after listening to the tracks, even just a few times, she began to feel more connected with her baby and began to feel confident that she could really do this. And she went on to have an amazing birth, as she says, not pain-free, but completely manageable. And that really is my goal for you as well, is to really think, what can I do to help myself and have an amazing birth that is manageable and that I can cope with. Okay, so what can you do to make the most of your environment? This is again something that really goes hand in hand with hypnosis. Now this next section should be for everybody, whether you're doing hypnosis or not, making the most of your environment is absolutely key. So just thinking about it, quick question. Have you ever seen a mammal give birth? Let me know in the little chat box. Have you ever witnessed a mammal giving birth? And if so, what were they like? How did they respond? How did mammals respond when they're giving birth? Okay, very calm and relaxed, says Ruby. Yep. My cat gave birth to kittens. She went underneath the bed. Yeah, exactly. She went somewhere really, really dark. So lots of you saying no and seeing only on TV. So most mammals tend to go for certain conditions. On the whole, we're talking about again, wild mammals, not necessarily domesticated mammals, so cows and sheep can't necessarily choose these things, but most mammals will go somewhere quiet, somewhere private. Often they give birth at night when it's dark, because again, there are less predators, so there's less danger around. And really finding somewhere very warm and relaxed. So somebody's just saying they lost connection. Yeah, I think it might just be your end, Agatha. Everybody else seems to be still communicating and connecting. Anybody else having a problem, let me know. But I think it seems to be, yeah, we're still all okay. All right, so all of these conditions really are about one key thing, and that is about safety. So mammals instinctively will do everything they can to go to the safest place to have their babies. Now, you are a mammal. You may be very sophisticated, very beautiful, very lovely hair and lovely clothes and all the rest of it, but ultimately you are a mammal. Now, the kind of crazy thing that's happened is that we have taken birth away from this kind of environment and moved it into hospitals where they are far from quiet, really not very private, quite bright, and not necessarily all that warm. However, there are key things that you can do to make sure you create this kind of environment. And this is really something for birth partners. So if you're listening, write this one down, because guys, if you can create these conditions, it's going to help mum to stay in that really primal zone. So you can have things like earplugs, you can have eye masks, you can turn the lights off and maybe have these little battery candles. There's lots of things that you can do to create this. Again, on my course I go through that in a lot more detail with lots of suggestions and ideas on how you can do that. So ultimately, by breaking the cycle, in order to break the cycle, you can recreate those mammalistic conditions, because if mum feels safe, if she's feeling warm, if she's feeling private, she's not going to have the anxiety. She's not going to be feeling as difficult and uncomfortable as she would do if it was bright and noisy and so on. The next thing is learning to let go of fears. You'll be doing that already if you're listening to some hypnosis tracks. And then the third thing is to condition yourself to relax and breathe. And that is ultimately how you're going to break that cycle. So as a mother, what do you need to do to practice to get the most out of hypnosis and using hypnobirthing? The first one, this is something you can do on your own, okay, is to really identify and let go of any fears or worries. What I mean by that is to just maybe write them down, brain dump them, type them up, whatever you want, and then just really have a look at them and think, do I need this? Is this valid? Is this helpful? Is this helping me right now? And if it isn't, then decide to get rid of it. You can almost do that by just typing up and then deleting it, or you could do it by writing it in a letter and posting it to nobody. You could get really kind of adventurous with it and tie your fears to a helium air balloon and let it go. There's lots and lots of ways that you can do that. Again, I cover that off in my book and my course. There's lots of techniques and exercises to help you do that. The next thing you can do is to start doing your own visualizations. So think about places that you really love to be. Think about beaches you've been on holiday, gardens, anywhere that you felt really safe, maybe your grandma's kitchen, and start writing them down. And then take some time to just indulge yourself with those visualizations. So maybe when you're having a hot bath, is to lie there and just go to that space in your head and really go into lots of detail. And tell your partner about these, because if you've done these in advance, then on the day, your partner can say beach in Koh Samui or grandma's kitchen or whatever your visualization is called, and that will just instinctively then help you go to that space in your head. You can get some affirmations. Again, on the course, I've got about 150 affirmations that are included with that, but you can get those on the website, or you can write your own. Again, part of the course is teaching you how to write your own, because the more you do that, the more they become part of you, and then you're much, much more connected with them than just using other people's affirmations. Write your own post-hypnotic suggestions. So think about all the things that are likely to happen on the day. Think about things that you're worried about, maybe the journey to hospital, maybe meeting new people, maybe the smells in the hospital, whatever it is. Think about those things and think, how would I like to respond to them? What could I be doing, feeling, thinking to make the most of that situation? And again, write those down. Another thing is to spend time actively relaxing. I know that's a bit of an oxymoron, but spend time saying, right now, I'm actively going to go and lie down and do my relaxation. And then close your eyes and just start relaxing your body and kind of talk yourself into a deeply relaxed state. Now, I know that so many of you are already listening to tracks, and obviously this will be very, very familiar because that's exactly what is on the tracks. But if you're not and you wanted to do this yourself, that's the kind of thing you could do. And then finally is to indulge yourself with thinking about your preferred birth scenario. Now, I'm not going to say your perfect birth scenario because I kind of think there isn't really such a thing, but just think about what you would really, really like and think about that with your your post-hypnotic suggestions. So those are things that anybody can do themselves to sort of use these techniques. The next thing is that you could listen to pre-made hypnosis recordings. I'll talk about these at the end, which ones to listen to when and how they work and so on. The beauty with this, again, is the more you listen to them, the easier it becomes to relax, the more you're conditioned to just drop into that lovely relaxed state, and the more those suggestions become embedded. So it really, really helps you to shift any unwanted negative beliefs about birth. In addition to obviously the relaxing and the effective breathing, the hypnosis tracks will also teach you the visualization. There's some specific pain reduction imagery which is used, for example, by dentists who perform surgery with no anesthetics. There's obviously the post-hypnotic suggestions all built in. And while you're listening to all of this, again, you're increasing your trust and your confidence. And all of this is going to help you just to be more instinctive and really just to listen to your body. The other benefits you're going to get, we covered off at the beginning. Obviously, helps you with sleep, less stress, bonding with your baby, helps you eat well, helps reduce any aches and pains. So all the way through your pregnancy, you'll be gaining in so many ways. So, again, hypnobirthing isn't just about the birth. It's about the whole time during your pregnancy and, of course, for the time after your baby is born. So the third thing that you can do is you can get a book on hypnobirthing. This is my one. There are lots of other books out there, and that's going to help you learn a lot more about the theory, understand the history of fear in birth. That's something I'm fascinated with, and I cover that on my course, and a lot of people come away saying, I had no idea how and why we've become so frightened. And it just makes so much more sense now that I've seen that kind of chronological development through kind of the last sort of 500-600 years. Lots of inspirational birth stories. Again, I would strongly suggest you really fill your head with positive birth stories. Read as many as you can possibly can, because it's really going to help to just keep that level of confidence high. In my book, I have a 5 step-by-step guide, which kind of stuff I've talked about here, but it goes into a lot more detail. And then obviously there's lots of practical tools and techniques, especially for birth partners. And my particular book, I've done it as a workbook style, so you can kind of fill it in and personalize it to your own preparation. And then the fourth thing is that you can attend a course. I know quite a few of you are already attending courses, which are brilliant. You can do an online course. I'll touch on that a bit more in a minute, or you could do a face-to-face course. Obviously, it depends on where you are and the access that you've got. So the last step I want to talk you through is what birth partners can be doing. You've sat here wonderfully patiently all this time, and so now this is where you get to be in the spotlight. So I think this is so important, and it's not something that a lot of people talk about, and antenatal classes and things don't really help the partners in this way, but I think it's absolutely crucial for you as a partner to also address your fears, your concerns, because the more you can address them and let go of them, just like mum does, the better mental state you will both be in on the day. So go through the process together or do it separately. It doesn't really matter. Share your hopes with each other and then go through that process of addressing your fears and letting go of the fears. Because if a guy is anxious in the birthing room, and again, I'm sure my midwife colleague will agree, he pumps out adrenaline and mum will find it so much harder because she tends to soak up that adrenaline as well. Okay, the next thing, so for birth partners to do, is for you to also practice the breathing and the relaxation. Because if you are chilled, if you're breathing really calmly, slowly and steadily, she will want to pick up on that. She will want to match that during labour. So if you're chilled, it's going to make her life much, much easier. But if you're breathing slowly, rhythmically and deeply, then she will stay in sync with you. One of the techniques that we teach on the course is to go through that process together, to kind of get into sync with each other's breathing, and then to go through some practice sessions where mum comes out of that kind of breathing mode, but guys, you stay in that deep breathing. And it's so difficult for mum to stay in the shallow breathing. She automatically, like a magnet, wants to come back to that deep, lovely breathing. So it's a fantastic way of helping her stay calm, again, without any words at all. Obviously, lots of lovely positive comfort measures, massage, stroke, touch, and so on. Again, she may like it 1 minute, she may not like it on the day. You don't know how she's going to respond. But if you've practiced things in advance, you've got kind of a toolkit of things that you can bring out on the day. On the online course, in fact, both the online course and practical course, I go through about 15 different comfort measures, which includes all sorts of different massage techniques, how to use birth balls, how to use water, aromatherapy, and all of those sorts of things. So again, it's like having this toolkit that you can dip in and out on the day. The next is to act as her, if you like, her protector, her gatekeeper. What I mean by that is that you want to make sure her space is kept as mammalistic as possible, so that she feels private, safe, dark and warm. And those are all things that you as a birth partner can really control and help, so that she doesn't have to think about it. Because ultimately, if you do all of that, you're going to keep adrenaline out of the birthing room, which is your biggest role, if you like, is you want to keep her in that beautiful little sort of safe bubble so she can just get into her birthing zone. And then finally, I would suggest that you also listen to the birthing hypnosis tracks. If you don't want to listen to them in a hypnosis sense, then listen to it at least once in a waking state. So if you've got a birth rehearsal type hypnosis track, sit down with a cup of coffee and write some notes down. Make a note of different suggestions, different triggers, different visualizations, because then if you've got that in a little notebook, you can then repeat those back to her during the birth itself. And then also you can listen to a stress management track yourself. If you do the online course, there is a specific track just for birth partners. And that again is designed predominantly for male birth partners. But it helps again to raise your confidence, to raise your belief in your ability to keep her calm, relaxed, and also helping you have the confidence to work with the medical team for the best, to get the best outcome for mum. Okay. And then finally, if she's been through some of the stuff that I've talked about, or she's done her own preparation, get copies of her affirmations, her suggestions, her visualizations, because the more you've got, the more you can use that on the day itself. And, have them ready, maybe have them, little pictures of them on your phone, or, have a little document with notes on your phone, that kind of thing. So you can then use those during the birth itself. One lovely birth I went to with a couple who travelled a huge amount before they had their baby. During the birth, he would just say one word at the beginning of a contraction, and that one word would be a place that they had travelled together. So he would just say something like Kathmandu or Manali or wherever it was that they had been. And you would just see this beautiful smile on the mum's face. And as she was going through the contraction, mentally, she'd gone off on a journey to those places that they'd been to together. And she said at the end that she was actually looking forward to each contraction because she couldn't wait to find out where they were going next. So, that's just an example of how they'd kind of used their life experiences, their time together, and he was able to use that as a little tool to help her during the labour. Okay, so how can you get the best out of your hypnobirthing preparation? Well, as I've touched on the hypnosis recordings, I'm just going to talk you through now the different ones that are available, because depending on where you are in your pregnancy, some are more appropriate or suitable, if you like, than others. The first one is a pregnancy relaxation. Now, as I think it was 77% of you were before 32 weeks. So obviously this is the main one that you would start listening to now. This doesn't talk about the birth, but it takes you through the breathing, the relaxation, the visualization. all of which you're going to be able to use for the labour. But the suggestions on here are much more about pregnancy well-being, sleeping well, dealing with any aches and pains, eating the right types of food and drink, bonding with your baby, all of those sorts of things. So it really helps you get into a really positive mental state during your pregnancy. The next one is one that's specifically for letting go of fear. Now, again, this is a brilliant one to use at any time in your pregnancy. So even if you're feeling really confident now, maybe you go for your 32-week checkup and suddenly midwife says, oh, I'm not so sure, maybe we need to do this. Suddenly you might have some anxieties. Then this is a brilliant one to help you just accept them, acknowledge them, and then let those anxieties and worries go. Then from about 32 weeks onwards, you could then move on to the effective birth preparation. We have different versions for home birth, hospital birth, VBAC, which is vaginal birth after a cesarean, and twins. And this one is the really kind of key one for birth preparation. This is the one that most people will listen to because this is the one with the visualizations of birth itself. Then we have one for labour, and this is to be listened to on the day. So there are 3 tracks on here that cover the excitement phase, the serious phase, and the self-doubt phase. I go into a lot of detail about those different emotional phases in my book and on the course, because again, I think they're really useful, a useful way, especially for birth partners, to be able to kind of gauge where she is in her labour. So this one is in the here and now. So it's almost like having me with you in the labour ward. If you've had a really big wobble and something's just happened and suddenly you think, oh, I can't do this anymore, there's a track to help you kind of get back on track, focus, and get back into your nice birthing zone. We then have ones for after the birth. So we have the breastfeeding companion, which obviously is what it says on the tin. And we have one for postnatal recovery. Again, has been invaluable, especially for second-time mums who were struggling and, first time round and really felt they could do with that support afterwards. And then we have a generic relaxation stress management, which is for guys, birth partners, anybody at all. It has nothing to do with pregnancy and birth. It is purely learning stress management and relaxation techniques. Okay, so those are the recordings that you can start off with, and they're about £10 each, and they come as downloads or a CD. So that's a really kind of low investment way of getting started. Okay, the next step is really kind of where you begin to get a lot more of the practical ideas, tools, and techniques, and that's by doing a class. So you'll get a huge repertoire of practical comfort measures. So everything from different massage techniques, how to use heat, how to use water, how to use a birthing ball, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of tools to help you let go of your worries and concerns. It helps the course really helps you to tailor and personalize your birth preparation, because the more you can make it yours, the more your mind takes it on as your reality rather than just a generic one that's fit for everybody. There's so many more strategies. I've only touched on a couple for the birth partner, which help you stay calm and focused. And I talk you through exactly what will happen during labour and how to work with your body on the day. I think this is so important, is understanding and working with your emotions, because birth is a very, very emotional thing. And if you don't understand about the different emotional phases, it can often lead to misunderstandings. Quite often when women go through the first, what we call self-doubt phase, which is around about sort of 7 centimetres, that's when things often go a bit pear-shaped, because suddenly birth partners look at the mum, suddenly think she really can't cope, and that's when, epidurals are called for and things like that. But if you know how to deal with those emotional little peaks and troughs, then it can really help you to stay on track for much, much longer. And then I talk a lot about hormones. I've touched on that already, and how to work with your hormones and the kind of conditions that the hormones like, and so on. And then I think this is a really important one, is how to work best with your medical support team, because I think a lot of people do have worries and concerns that when they kind of go into hospitals, that there's a bit of white coat syndrome. They're suddenly not sure what they are allowed or not allowed, or a bit worried that the medical support team might want to kind of take over. So I talk you through the best ways of working with your medical support team. And then finally is giving you tools to deal with the unexpected, because, birth is unpredictable. We don't necessarily, nobody can guarantee anything in birth. And so the key behind everything I teach is to give you the confidence and the tools to deal with anything. I had an email from somebody the other day that she did need a cesarean section because her baby was in a really awkward position. And she said that when she went in for the cesarean, she was the calmest person in the room because she accepted it. She realized it was the best for her and her baby, and she was able to let go of any worries or concerns about it and get back into her calm state. So that is, I think, so important, no matter what kind of birth you're planning. Oh, this was this Julie? Oh, yeah, Julie. So it's given me so much more confidence in my ability to have a successful VBAC, and now I feel I have all the tools I need for calm and fear-free natural birth. She did the online course actually, and she was saying it was also great to be able to fit this in around my family at a time that suited us. I love the relaxation track and feel so connected to my inner self and my baby when I go into hypnosis. She hasn't had her baby yet, so it'll be good to hear how that goes. This is Nicole. She lives in the outback, and she was about 3 hours from her local antenatal class. So she did the online course. She'd had a very traumatic birth first time round, and she said that she really felt the online course made an enormous difference. And she's a really practical, down to earth, farm girl. And she sort of, in the beginning, she said, "Oh, I'm not sure about this. It's all a bit kind of." She was very skeptical, but she went on to have an amazing birth experience. Okay, so in terms of the online hypnobirthing course, I know we've got people all over the world, so this is probably more appropriate to you than the practical courses, the physical courses, if you like. On the online course, I'll take you through the 10 steps in a lot more detail. So everything we've talked about here today, but going into a lot more detail on each of them. The beauty is that you can learn at your own pace. There are 16 modules, and each of them are about half an hour. So even if you're really early on in your pregnancy, you could start the process now, get some of the theory, the background, some of the practice, and then you can always go back and revisit it again and again and again, which is the beauty of doing an online course versus doing a practical face-to-face course. Yeah, I've covered all of that. I've done a kind of like a fast track element of it as well. So birth partners, you can dip into particular modules. You don't have to necessarily sit through the whole thing. You're more than welcome to. It'd be great if you did, but I know that doesn't necessarily fit everybody's lifestyle. And of course, you'll be learning a ton of practical, easy to use and really effective tools and techniques in the comfort of your own home. Now, on the course, we have all different learning styles. So there are videos, there are interactive games, there are tutorials from me, there's homework for you to do, so reflections, my dears. I really encourage you to personalize everything. So I'll teach you how to write your own affirmations, how to write your own visualizations, and all of those kinds of things. And then there's a 40-page handout that print off, if you like, PDF, that's got lots and lots of information, everything from aromatherapy to what to do if you need to be induced, and so on. Okay, so if you're wondering what the investment is for those different things, you could do private one-to-one courses, which in the UK are around about £300. You can do group face-to-face courses, which are between £200 to £400, depending on where you're based. And then my online course is £97. However, because you have been so wonderful staying with me on this webinar to the very end, I have got a special offer on that course for this evening. So, where's my little thingy go? What I'm offering tonight, which again, I think you'll find you'll get a huge amount of, especially if you're in the earlier phases, earlier weeks of pregnancy, is I'm going to give you all of this. So there's all of the tracks that I've talked about, plus a copy of my book. So the book is a 300-page book, which again, massively 5-star reviews. If you have a look on Amazon, really well thought of, which is fantastic because it's a very practical, down-to-earth book. There's no jargon. It's not technical in any way at all. So all of that normally comes on a USB stick, which is worth £50. So if you book on the course this evening, then I will give you that as part of the course. So you will get that absolutely free. So to cover everything we've got, so if you wanted to do the course, instead of £97, I am going to offer it tonight for £75. Plus you will get the 7 tracks and the book, and all of that will come on a USB stick. So all of that is normally, oh, hold on, where are we? Sorry, I've lost my track there. So for that, you will get the 16 modules, the 40-page worksheets and handouts, loads of positive birth stories, birth videos, over 100 pregnancy and birth affirmations. There's a really good midwives information guide that comes with the course for you to print out and give to your midwife, which explains a lot more about what what you're doing to prepare, what you've been doing, and so on. There are 11 hypnosis downloads in total. You get access to a private Facebook group, and I am there to answer your questions at any given time through either the Facebook or direct email. And then you get the 300-page book that comes with it. So out of all of that, the outcome, and again, we've had so many people who've done the course and felt it really, really helped them to feel more confident, to be more prepared, and to really be in control, and ultimately to feel excited and relaxed about the whole process. For the birth itself, you'll be learning the pain management strategies, the coping tools, and basically you'll be getting lifelong stress management skills. Okay, now I noticed that I've got all the wrong links. I'm going to give you the link to the course with the correct coupon. So if you wanted to book the course, then let me just type that in there. Hopefully, oh, where am I gone? No, wrong place. So if I just type that in here, then you should get a link to the course, and then you can just click on that link, which has already got the coupon code in. So that will give you access to the course, which, as I said, is £75 instead of £97. Once you get into the course, this is what it looks like on the inside. For each module, you will have welcome videos, or not a great picture. Then there is a multimedia presentation that you can go through. Then there's homework, then there's more videos. So basically for each module, it'll tell you how long it is, and then all the different things that you can download with it. Each of the modules, as I said, it's between 30 to 35 minutes, and it takes you through all the things that we've talked about, but in a lot more detail. So the relaxation, breathing, birth physiology, hormones, and so on. And then at the end, there is a resource centre, which has absolutely masses of different bits and pieces, different information that can really, really help with all of your birth preparation. Okay, so finally, before I go, have you got any questions? I am all ears, or well, kind of, So if you've got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Okay, so somebody's already got the book and most of the tracks. At the moment, I don't have any other discounts or any other offers at the moment, but we do have them on our website every now and again for 3 for 2 offers and things like that, Marie. So if you're happy with using the book and the tracks, then you're already getting really, really good preparation, so you don't necessarily need to do any more. I think a lot of people find the course really helps to bring it alive, because reading the book obviously is fantastic, but when you're actually going through an interactive course, watching videos, doing the homework yourself, writing your own things, it just really kind of brings it alive and makes it kind of embeds the information a lot more than if you're just reading a book. Okay, but yeah, I mean, I think you've already got pretty much what you need, and if you've started listening to all of those already, that's great. Okay. Right, so next question. I'm planning on having a water birth. Am I able to use hypnosis? Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I used water with all of mine. I didn't give birth in the water with all of them because for various reasons, I didn't really feel like getting in for one of them, but I used the water during the pregnancy and in the early stages of labour. So if you are planning on using water, I would suggest that you listen to your hypnosis tracks while having a bath, so that you're creating that connection with that warm, relaxing water and the hypnosis. I also think that many people find the water is so comforting and relaxing anyway, that just getting in the water, whether you've done hypnosis or not, is really, really beneficial. But yes, there's no contraindications, if you like. There's nothing to say you can't do that. Okay. Okay, so question, I'm due this Friday. Well, hey, all exciting. And I've been listening to your CDs. Would you recommend using your Labour Day CD whilst also using a TENS machine? Oh, yes, again, lots of people ask about TENS machines. I get very mixed reviews on them, if I'm honest. Lots of people have them and then find they just get annoyed with them. Other people use them and absolutely love them. Other people have used them and said, yes, it really worked, and then found it wasn't actually plugged in. So I think it might just be more having a button to press kind of is like a trigger to take you into a relaxed state. So absolutely, if you want to use TENS, that fits perfectly. With the Labour Companion CD, what you might find is that you only use one or two of the tracks for just a short amount of time. On that CD is also the birth music, the relaxing music. So the music that's in the background of all of my hypnosis tracks is the same music, so that when you listen to just the music, you automatically go into a really deep relaxed state. We also find that a lot of people find the music, their baby really responds to the music as well. In fact, I know my kids have all had that music when they were born, and my 9-year-old still says, oh, Mummy, can I have my birth music to go to sleep? So listening to that music is really powerful for your baby. So Helena, I would suggest that you have the music on throughout when you're using your TENS, and then just use the other tracks periodically if you feel like you really need them. Does that help? Okay, so another question. If I fall asleep while listening to the track, how do I know it will work? Oh, I know exactly what you're saying, and I hear this question so many times. When you are asleep, you are still able to hear what's going on around you. So, for example, if you were asleep and your phone rang, you'd wake up. If you were asleep when your baby is born and you hear your baby, you'll wake up. So you are still able to hear what's going on. You say, normally I lay down, should I find a position that helps me to stay awake? No, please. If you're going to listen to the tracks, really lie down and just get as relaxed as possible. One suggestion would be not to listen to it at night when you're about to fall asleep, because really you are then telling your mind, now is my time to go to sleep. So maybe listen to it maybe when you come home from work, or if you've got toddlers when they're having a nap. So listen to it at a time that you're not normally going to sleep. But even if you feel like you are asleep, that's fine. And again, it's having that trust. And I hear so many women say, I don't know if it's working because I haven't heard any of it beyond the beach. And then they come back to me afterwards and said, yep, it all just happened as you'd said. So Marguerite, I'm afraid trust is going to be a big one, and it's just like, go with it. Okay. So you normally do it in the morning after you wake up. Yeah, no, that's a good time to do it. Another question, can any music help in labour, not just the birth companion? Oh yes, of course. Lots of people make music lists, that they want to listen to during labour. The key with the music on the labour companion is that if you've been listening to my tracks, that music will have a really powerful connection with deep relaxation. And so many women feel the music almost becomes like a rock for them. Just having that music playing in the background helps them just to stay in that deeply relaxed state. It's a bit like the associations we make. If you had, I don't know, on your wedding night or on your honeymoon, this wonderful song, that every time you hear that song later on, you automatically go back to that wonderful space and you hear and you feel what you were experiencing at the time. So that's what happens with the relaxing birth music. It is a really powerful trigger for the deep relaxation. Okay. All right, just one more question, because I'm really conscious that we've kind of zipped off time-wise. Okay, so, oh, hold on, I just got to there. Whoops, I'm just saying, so that there, I've just realised on my PowerPoint presentation, the coupon code is incorrect. So I'm just going to do that one on there. So I don't know, have you got the link? Are you getting the link in the chat? Because if anybody's struggling to find the link, do email me and let me know. Okay, right, so another question here. I'm not sure if my midwives will fully support me using hypnobirthing. It's not very common here. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure whereabouts in the world you're based, but okay, yeah, I think in the CDs and in the course, as I said, there is a handout to give to midwives. It would be really, really useful to print that off and give that to your midwife in advance, because then she can have a read through what it is that you're doing and kind of understand a bit more about it. But ultimately, I think the most important thing is that you explain to your midwife that you're planning on having a really calm, instinctive birth. Even if you want to have, if you're planning on having an epidural, that's absolutely fine. This is more about just helping you cope with the labour that you are in at any given point. And then just explain to her that you'd like to create as calm an environment as possible. If it's okay to turn the lights off and have battery operated candles, and maybe to have just quiet talking. I don't personally go for giving lists of words you can and can't use, or telling the midwife that you can't talk directly to the mum. There are some hypnobirthing technique schools of thought that do that, and I actually don't think that's very helpful, because ultimately you want to make the best possible team that you've got around you and have rapport with your midwives. Okay. So somebody's asked, how long is that link valid for? I will keep the link, the £75 until Friday. So you've got until Friday to book the course. But if you want to get the USB with the all the extra stuff with the book and the 7 downloads, then that's just for this evening. So yeah, so for the extra bonus, if you like, that's just for this evening. But if you need to wait for a couple of days, then you've got till Friday to book on the online course for the £75. Okay, I'm actually going to stop there. If you've got any more questions, you've got my email. You can contact me at any time. If you do join the course, you will then have access to our Facebook group. And again, that's a really supportive environment for any questions, any concerns, any worries. We've got lots of mums on there who've done the course and who are able to kind of give their view of it as well. So you can access that once you become once you join up with the course. Okay, well, I will just leave by saying thank you very, very much. I've really enjoyed chatting with you this evening. It's wonderful to be able to talk about my favourite subject in the whole wide world without being interrupted by my children or the phone or anything else. And yeah, keep in touch and let me know if you've got any questions. And I wish you all the very best. All right, have a lovely evening, and I will sign off now. Take care. Bye.